Hi friends, welcome back into another one of my video. Hope you're all doing great today, and let's continue with another story. It's the making of a New Yorker. Let's begin. Besides many other things, Ruggles was a poet. He was called a tramp. But that was only an elliptical way of saying that he was a philosopher, an artist, a traveler, and a naturalist, and a discoverer. But most of all, he was a poet. In all his life, he never wrote a line of verse. He lived his poetry. His Odyssey would have been a limerick had it been written. But no linger, but to linger. With the primary proposition, Ruggles was a poet. Ruggles' speciality had been driven to ink and paper, would have been sonnets to the cities. He studied cities as women study their reflections in mirrors, as children study the glue and sawdust of a dislocated doll. As the men who write about wild animals study the cages in the zoo. A city of Ruggles was not merely a pile of bricks and mortar. Peopled by a certain number of inhabitants. It was a thing with a sole characteristic and distinct, an individual conglomeration of life with its own peculiar essence, flavor, and feeling. 2,000 miles to the north and south, east and west, Ruggles wandered in poetic fervor, fervor, taking the cities to his breast. He footed on these dusty roads, or sped magnificently off freight cars, counting time as of no account. And when he had found the heart of a city and listened to its secret confession, he strayed on, restless, to another. Fickle Ruggles. But perhaps he had not met the civic corporation that could engage and hold his critical fancy. Through the ancient poets, he have learned that the cities are feminine. So they were to poet Ruggles, and his mind carried a concrete and clear conception of the figure that symbolized a typified each one that he had wooed. Chicago seemed to swoop down upon him with breezy suggestion of Mrs. Partington, plums, and patchouli, and to disturb his rest with soaring and beautiful song of future promise. But Ruggles would awake to a sense of shivering cold, and haunting impression of ideals lost in the depressing aura of potato salad and fish. Thus Chicago affected him. Perhaps there is a vagueness and inaccuracy in the description, but that is Raggles' fault. He should have recorded his sensations in magazine poems. Pittsburgh impressed him as the play of Othello performed in Russian language in railroad station by Dockstader's minstrels. A royal and generous lady, this Pittsburgh, though homely, hearty, with flushed face, washing the dishes, in a silk dress and white kid slippers, and bidding Raggles sit before the roaring fireplace and drink champagne with his pig's feet and fried potatoes. New Orleans had simply gazed down upon him from a balcony. He could see his pensive, starry eyes and catch the flutter of her fan. And that was all. Only once he came face to face with her. Only once he came face to face to her. It was at dawn when she was flushing the red bricks of the Bontic with a pail of water. She laughed and hummed and chansonette and filled Raggles' shoes with ice-cold water. Alone's. Boston construed herself to the poet Raggles in an erratic and singular way. It seemed to him that he had drunk cold tea and that the city was a white, cold cloth that had been bound tightly around his brow to spur him to some unknown but tremendous mental effort. And after all, he came to shovel snow for a livelihood. And the cloth, becoming wet, tightened its knots and could not be removed. Identify and unintelligible ideas, you will say. But your disprobation should be tempered with gratitude, for these are poets' fancies. And suppose you had come upon them in verse. One day Raggles came and laid siege to the heart of the great city of Manhattan. She was the greatest of all, and he wanted to learn her note in the scale, to taste and appraise and classify and solve and label her and arrange her with other cities. And here we cease to be Raggles' translator and become his chronicler. Raggles landed from a ferry boat one morning and walked into the core of the town with the blaze, blaze air of a cosmopolite. He was dressed with care to play the role and often identified man. No country, race, class, clinic, union, party, clan, or bowling association could have claimed him. His clothing, which had been donated to him piecemeal by citizens of different heights, but same number of inches around the heart, was not yet as uncomfortable to his figure as those specimens of raiment, self-measured, that are railroaded to you by transcontinental trail tailors, with its suitcase, suspenders, silk handkerchief, and pearl studs as a bonus. Without money, as a poet should be, but with a door, often astronomer discovering a new star and a chorus of the Milky Way, or a man who has seen ink suddenly flow from his fountain pen. Ruggles wandered into the great city. Wandered. Late in the afternoon he drew out of the roar and commotion with a look of dumb terror on his countenance. He was defeated, puzzled, discomfited, frightened. Other cities had been to him as a long premier to read. As country maidens quickly to fathom, as cent price of subscription with answer, rebuses to solve, as oyster cocktails to swallow. But here was one, a skull glittering, serene, impossible as a 4-carat diamond, in a window to a lover outside, fingering damply in his pocket his ribbon counter salary. The greetings of the other cities he had known, their homespun kindliness, their human gamut of rough charity, friendly cruises, garrulous curiosity, and easily estimated credulity or indifference. The city of Manhattan gave him no clue. It was walled against him like a river of adamant, and flowed past him in the streets. Never an eye was turned upon him, no voice spoke to him. His heart yearned for a clap of Pittsburgh Sooty head on his shoulder, for Chicago's menacing but social yawp in his ear, for the pale of eleemosynary and eleemosynary stare through the Bostonian eyeglass, even for the precipitate but unmalicious but toy of Louisville or St. Louis. Okay guys, that's it for today. Looking forward to see you on the second part tomorrow. Thank you. Bye.